All right, looks like we are live. Getting confirmation that we're good to go. Not yet. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping here. So, this is just a quick little intro. Welcome to the Building Doors Instagram Live for October. I'm your host, Brandon Miller, and today we're diving into stop chasing likes and start being remembered on Instagram. Later during the live, our participant, Jenna Rostein, will be joining us as we do a live one-on-one to help her create content that she'll be remembered for by the people that matter most. And we want this to be interactive, an interactive conversation. So drop your thoughts and questions in the comments. We'll be checking in through the chat here throughout the event. We have our very own Wizard of Oz. Oh, paying no attention to the woman behind the curtain. Christy, she's taking care of everything. And we'd love to hear you beyond that. So feel free to call 216-307-1917 anytime during or after the event to leave a short voicemail with your thoughts on today's chat and the Building Doors campaign. I also want to give a special shout out to some Building Doors supporters who recently bought the campaign some coffee. Many thanks to monthly subscribers Sandy Harrison Cooksey, Marion Mills, and John Lano. If you love the Building Doors campaign, the live events, or the podcast, you can buy the campaign a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/buildingdoorsvo. Oh, and just one second here. I'm getting a quick update. Erin Mask will be tuning in from the sidelines of her son's flag football game. All right, go team. All right, let's dive in here. We've got some fun stuff here. I don't have a fancy schmancy slide deck for everyone, so you'll just have to bear with me here as we blow through a lot of stuff. So pull out a notebook, get your notes app ready, get ready to type because there's going to be a lot of information here. As I mentioned, this is stop chasing likes, start being remembered, how voice actors can use Instagram to stay top of mind. And what we're going to cover here today is I'm going to go into kind of my background with the Building Doors campaign. Some of you might already know my involvement. Some of you might not know. I'm going to share my experience using Instagram, and I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a real show and tell. So I will bring the cringe for all of us, okay? I'm also going to share kind of my philosophy that I use to stay top of mind on Instagram, my process and coming up with content and creating it. And then I'm going to share a little bit about the techie side of how I create content as well. And then we'll get into the live Instagram audit with Jenna Rostein, where we're going to go over some things that she wants to look into on her Instagram, and we're going to give her stuff that she can use right away. So, and then we'll get into some questions. So if you do have questions, throw them in the chat, but I'll wait till the end to just knock them all out because there's a big possibility that I'm going to answer a bunch of these things during the live. And then at the very end, I'm going to wrap things up. I'm going to share with you how you can work with me because I do one-on-one as well. And I have a fun freebie that I've never seen anybody share before. And I think it's going to be a ton of value. So stick around to the end because you're going to want to be a part of that. So without further ado here, let me just tell you about the Building Doors campaign. So I have been with the Building Doors campaign from its conception. It has been a crazy wild, I don't know, almost 2 years. Back in February, I believe it was, of 2024, Christy called me and she had just gotten out of a webinar. And there was a, prominent talent agent in there, and she was talking about sports promo. And Christy had asked something like, what are the chances that, more women can break into sports promo? And the answer was kind of, well, good luck. It's, still a pretty, male dominated genre. And if you don't know Christy is a powerhouse with sports promo stuff. She's been working her butt off, and to get another devastating blow like that just feels terrible. So when she called me, she was explaining this to me, And she said, "Well, I know that you create content, maybe you could help me create a post that, kind of advocates for what she went through and everything like that." And as she was saying that, there was only one thought in my head, which was, "This is so much more than one post. This is a movement." And so I said, "Christy, this is more than a post. This is a you're about to enter a movement. It's gonna create people are gonna think differently, people are gonna follow, people are gonna wanna advocate for themselves and for women everywhere." And after that call, shortly after that, she said, "Hey, I have the Building Doors campaign. Would you be willing to help me create content for it?" And I said, "Absolutely." Like, I totally believe in, equality in the advertising industry. And, it's not a secret that there are a lot of male dominated industries within the advertising industry. So we put our heads together, and I had basically said, well, we could create videos highlighting the voices of women that can voice in different male dominated genres. And we said, well, we need to highlight their faces. We need to show them on camera. We need to show they're real people. And so we ended up putting together what it would be like if women voiced male ads. So we're talking, automotive and sports and liquor, beer, all of the, kind of male dominated industries that you see out in the world. And we'll mix in a female voice talent as a stand in for those spots. Because the truth of the matter is that women enjoy trucks and whiskey and grilling, outdoor recreation just as much as men. And, there should be representation there for that. And we started creating these things. I created them using Canva and Adobe Audition. That's it. And then everything else are free resources that I can find online, free music, free sound bites, things like that. Um, and at this point, I believe I've made somewhere around 80 plus reels highlighting women in male dominated industries, which is a lot. And there's been some amazing things that have happened. I mean, I can't even list them all right now, but I mean, some women have broken through in some of those industries. They've led to some amazing conversations with major brands. Um, it has seriously been a journey, and I'm so grateful to be a part of such a industry changing movement. Um, Now, to s continue with that, that kind of leads me into the fact that, we didn't have everything perfect when we launched this. You know, I didn't have all the videos and down perfectly, but everything that I was doing, everything that we were doing was all about being present, playful, and driving progress. And that's exactly what happened. So that gets me right into my background and my very humble background with Instagram. So in 2019 is when I started my voiceover business. I didn't know anything about Instagram. It was pretty foreign to me. I didn't know it much more than posting food that you go out to eat, low lighting, kind of a crappy photo, post it on there and say, look what I'm eating today. Um, so I didn't really know how to use it for my business at all. And right now I'm actually going to share some of my early posts because I think you need to see that the main thing that we're dealing with here is that you need to see some of these examples live about what doesn't work, right? So let me share my screen with you real quick. And let's see here. There it is. All right. So the first one I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you here are just some early posts that, I mean, they just didn't land, and I'll explain why. This one I'm calling a hollow post. Okay. If everyone can see this clearly here, this is on Instagram. This is a post that I made back in 2020, and it's a a photo of me, where I have core values written on the front of it. And then I've got stock photos of an interface and, text and that sort of thing. But while that doesn't land so well because it's just not that engaging really, um, because nobody comes on Instagram to talk about core values, right? But it's the caption I wanna share with you, and what I'm doing right here is I say, as a business, do you have core values that aid in your decision making? Do they act as a filter for your messaging? Let me tell you exactly how this lands. Just like in the voiceover world, how announcers are, in some in some fashion, they're not great at connecting to an audience sometimes. That's exactly what this post was. This is an announcement post. Nothing in here talks about my there's no story built into this. It's basically this was before ChatGPT, before using AI. This is pretty similar to what ChatGPT would have spit out, but this is what I wrote. Um, so this is a really good example of kind of what doesn't land when you're posting content. And I get it. We all want to look like we're polished professionals, right? But sometimes that loses our personality, our soul, our humor, all of that, and certainly some of the storytelling. Um, Let me pull that post up here just one more time so you can see that here. Give me 1 second here. And let me just try this right here. Little technical difficulties, but nothing that we can't fix here. So here we go. All right, and here's the post that I was talking about. Again, we got the core values on here. We got it's a professional photo, so that's nice. But then we got these stock photos here that just doesn't really land as well. We've got this description that I mentioned in the caption. It just doesn't land very well. And if you'd like to see it more closely, you can go to my Instagram, scroll back to July 9th, 2020, 275 weeks ago. Um, the next one I'm going to show you here is what I call kind of this like performative post. It's a post that just, again, doesn't quite connect. Yeah, it's a picture of my shoes and some fun socks. Hey, nothing wrong with that. But again, it's kind of this performative post where I'm not really telling a story. I'm not really trying to connect with you in any way. I basically say I could just kick my feet up and relax after a long day or take a reasonable break and get back in the game. It's all about choices. It's a little hollow. It's a little performative. It just doesn't land super well. Now, if I would have told a story about where I got those socks or about how I feel wearing the socks or whatever, that might land a little bit better. Let's see. Another one that I've got here is, oh, you guys are ready? You guys ready to cringe on this one? Okay. This is called a look at me, but why? Okay. So I'm already like blushing like crazy because this is a rough one. 307 weeks ago, I posted this photo in my first recording booth, and with my old logo, "Let's tell your story," which so vague. Um, but I'm not really telling a story. I'm just kind of like showing up and but there's no real reason here. I'm talking about capture that inner child that used to laugh, bringing a sense of innocence to your adult self. Like it's poetic. It's a little hollow. It doesn't connect with anybody, but it does, at the bare minimum, it shows me, as a real person. But man, what a super funny stage photo. Anyways, these are some examples that just today won't land, and they didn't land that well back then either, but they won't land today. Now, after making all those posts and having made over 2,000 pieces of content at this point, I've learned some things, and it came through experimentation, a lot of it. My main point with this whole presentation is the fact that This is all about experimentation. I learned from others. There's a lot of amazing creators out there that I've taken, some of their ideas, made them my own, taken different concepts from different industries, and decided to stop chasing likes. Um, I'm not interested in becoming a content creator or becoming a media producer per se. And so I wanted to create stuff that still spoke to my ideal audience, which are video producers, instructional designers, audiobook publishers, things like that, but also some of my colleagues and vendors and brands and social media managers. So I started making content a little differently. So I made one that I'm calling this kind of the out of box testimonial. We've all probably seen testimonials, the testimonial graphic. We've all seen it. We've all used them. We probably have them on our website at this point. So I ended up making a video about a testimonial that I had received. And there was a little thing in there about how I have a buttery smooth voice. And so I decided to make a funny video where it's basically me reacting to receiving that testimonial. And it's just my phone on a tripod right here. And then I take a bite of butter. I don't actually take a bite of butter, but we'll call this like movie magic, right? But it's super simple, like it took me 15 minutes to make this thing, and then going into Instagram and like, adding in all the little details. That's all it was. But I can tell you that this led to a client reacting to it and commenting on it and later talking about it later on. And that was huge, right? This is something that made it memorable, versus something that was like a static graphic that, maybe it tells us, story of how you went above and beyond for your client. But this is a way to kind of take that, make it fun and interesting. So this is an example of how to take something like that and make it work for you. Another one I like to call is just like character building posts, things that, just like talk, like speak to your character without having to say, these are my values. I made this video just like weeks ago, and it I basically was sitting right here again, and I looked at my bookshelf and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember reading that book when I was a teenager. That really made a big impact when I was growing up." And all I did was grab my phone and pan over, walk over, grab the book, show the book, and then I explained the details and the whole story in the caption. But this time I'm telling a story to you. I'm to one person when I'm talking about this. This isn't like you know, growth is very important and that's what I stand for. It's, you go into a little bit more personal detail, and this does well for me because I would be proud to show this to a client. And anytime I create content, that's what I'm thinking about is how would I feel if a client saw this? Would I be proud to show this to them? So that's something to think about. Another one is Pain Point Fun. None of these names are uh, meant to be anything other than I was trying to categorize them. But so I made this video here. And if you want to to these or watch them fully, feel free to scroll through my Instagram. But for timing's sake, we don't have time for that. This particular post was talking about over processing your audio. And it's something that my clients don't want. And so I saw a viral video from like 10, maybe 15 years ago. And it was this guy that had like an infomercial kind of thing. And he was saying, this is how you make a protein shake. So he's like, here's a scoop of protein, and then I add some ice cubes, then a scoop of protein, then a banana, then some more protein. And then to top it all off, more protein. I saw that video and was like, well, I could do that. How about adding compression and keep adding compression, then keep adding compression and then sending it off, right? I explained kind of the educational moment behind it. There's no room to add music or effects, and the audio quality is terrible. And then I explain in the caption here exactly what it's a little hard to see, but basically, most of my clients like receiving raw audio. I explain why. And what this does, this is an edutaining type post, meaning that it's a mixture of entertainment and education, which is the style that I lead with on Instagram. So I highly recommend thinking of some of the pain points that your clients have and how can you make it entertaining and educational, just fun and interesting. Those are kind of the main things that you want to think about. Another one here is what I call just credible storytelling. This had nothing to do with voiceover, but this was a I saw this beer in the grocery store, and because I worked in the craft beer industry, there was a grain that I had never heard of that they were using that stood out to me. Did some research, found out it was a very sustainable beer, and I decided I was so excited about it, I'm gonna make a video about it. So I put this into Canva. These are all things I made in Canva, and created the video, posted it on Instagram and LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, a documentary film producer, hi Kelly, if you're here, she saw the video, said, "Hey, I'm looking to host a beer tasting halfway across the country. Would you want to be a part of that?" And that is totally what happened. So this was an opportunity that popped up that never would have happened if it wasn't for creating some content and posting it on social media with the intent of speaking to sustainable brands. And that documentary film producer stands for sustainable brands. So uh, this is an example of how you can get content to perform in a way that has intention versus, just posting to post. Um, I think that's it for what I have here. I'm gonna close out of this and just dive into kind of the meat of what we're about to get to here. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to let's see, cancel this out here. All right. All right. So here we go. So I talked about my kind of humble beginnings. I'm going to get into kind of my Instagram content philosophy because it really is a philosophy. I feel like there's a couple different ways that you can use Instagram to work for you as a voice actor. One, you could become, kind of a content creator that, either leans into kind of almost like a media, like interest media, basically, where you're creating content for a specific audience to consume it, be entertained by it, that sort of thing. Like maybe you really love condiments, and so now, like, most of your content is about condiments, and now your page is like about condiments, but you sprinkle in a little bit of your VO stuff. That's an example of how you could do it. For me, I didn't really want to do that, so I look at it at my Instagram profile here as, let me just pull it up here real quick. My Instagram profile, I use it as kind of a landing page, a way for people to learn a little bit more about me, because as voice actors, there's two ways that we can showcase our personality. Really, it's in auditions and it's in direct marketing. Those are really the only two ways to express yourself um, in really, freeing, creative ways. Instagram is the only place to really have the control of that. So on Instagram, you can share a lot of the quirky personality, interests, your talent, your credibility, your professionalism, all of that on Instagram. It just matters on how you put it together and how you're showcasing it and presenting it to people that are visiting. You want them to know right away that you're a voice actor. Make that clear. So your bio should represent, you know, what you're doing with your content. So when they look at your bio and they look at your content, they're like, "Oh yeah, they're a voice actor." Maybe you've got a few other things in your bio that speak to your personality or other things you like to talk about. Like, "Oh yeah, that stuff's in there too. That stuff's totally there." And then they can read all the labels on all the videos and say, "Oh, okay, I see what this is all about, who it's for, yada yada yada." All that stuff's super important there. So that is the way that I like to use Instagram. Now, to stay top of mind, I also include some of my social media posts in some of my direct marketing. Like I said, I'm proud of the stuff that I create, and there's stories that I would tell my clients in real life if I met them in person. So why wouldn't I include some of that in my direct marketing? It just makes total sense. So, and I've had clients and prospective clients say, "I really love the videos that you have here. They're so fun, they're so engaging." And to me, that's why the reason they are is because they're stories. They're stories I would tell in real life. And even the fun ones that are quirky and silly and, uh, the eating the butter thing. I mean, it's just a fun joke. You might tell that joke in person somewhere, right? Prospective clients will also search you on Google, and more than likely, your Instagram profile will pop up on the first page if you're using it. When they go to your page, they wanna know who you are, what you do, why you do it, and what it's like to work with you, which is probably the most important one there. They wanna make sure you're not a weirdo. They wanna make sure that the audition they heard or the direct marketing email they got, that you are a person. So show that on Instagram. The way that I use Instagram, I'm not looking to go viral. I just wanna be remembered. That's it. And I don't have to go viral to be remembered. I've had some posts catch some virality, and those posts, they didn't, they didn't speak to who I wanted to speak to, and for that, they went viral, they went a direction I wasn't planning, and so it didn't do that much for me. So, what I do now is I ditch kind of this perfectionism thing, and I know what you're thinking. The nails gotta be perfect, the hair's gotta be good, your shirt has to be perfectly pressed, you have to be sitting up straight. I mean, screw that, man. That is just not the way it is. Ditch the perfectness for being playful, for being present, for uh, having progress in your journey, having progress in moving your story forward. That's really what it's about. I don't have a playbook for how I do this stuff because none of this stuff is one size fits all. It's not there's no right or wrong way to do some of this stuff. It's really personalized, individualized, and that's why I offer one-on-ones because I just don't have a course that I'm sending people through. One thing that I want to get clear is that when I'm using Instagram, Instagram isn't a place where I sell voiceovers. It's where I show up, build trust, and stay top of mind with the people who can hire me. Now, that to be said, people aren't going onto my Instagram and saying, "Wow, this is awesome. I'm ready to book you." It doesn't quite work like that. So I want to get something. I just want to like cut to the chase on some of that stuff. Is that what I'm sharing today is not a silver bullet for making money. What this is a way to show up professionally, creatively, and to aid in some of your credibility and building trust, which are some of the cornerstones of selling voiceovers and working in this creative profession. Uh, Couple months ago, I was watching a very awesome 90s movie called Mrs. Doubtfire. Maybe you heard of it. There was a quote that Daniel Hillard, Mrs. Doubtfire, aka Robin Williams, was saying, and he said, "Bottom line, don't patronize kids. They're little people. You got to personalize it. Make it fun. If it's something you'd enjoy, they'd enjoy it." Now, I know we're not making content for kids. Maybe some of you are, but um, that's how you have to look at it. If it's something you'd enjoy, they'd enjoy it. But again, it depends really on who you're talking to. So, how I create unforgettable content is, like I mentioned before, it's making edutaining content. Let me show you how this works. So, let's say I want to show how professional I am and how organized I am. I could say, "This is my planner right here. This is what I use to organize all of my sessions, all of my meetings." So yeah, that's kind of how I do it. I could post that, right? That's content. But how can I make it edutaining and fun? Okay, so what if I did it this way? What if I put up my camera here and just filmed myself and did a voiceover, um, and I did something like I was writing in my planner, right? And I'm like, okay, so yeah, let's see, got my planner here. Let's see. I need to send marketing emails, update my website with John Lano. Wait, is it John Lano? 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 And what was the other thing? Oh, yeah, get a toenail massage, right? It's totally, and that's it. That's the post. 15 seconds. That's it. But it's funny. It catches you off guard, right? A toenail massage? What's that all about? But what it shows is it's a story with a beginning, middle, and an end. And it shows you as a business professional using a planner. It shows you care about your website and your marketing. And it shows you're funny. Who doesn't want that person as a collaborator? And maybe you catch some likes, maybe you catch some comments and some shares because it's funny. But first and foremost, if a client goes on there and sees that video, they might find that funny. And that's all I care about. Now, you might be wondering, like, what kind of content? How much of what do I post? My rule for what I do is 70% of what I post lives in and around my VO world. That could be my demos, projects, behind the scenes, showing how I work, what it's like to work with me, how I prep stuff, where I work, why I love it, and what helps my clients. Those are all kind of things that I would love to share in my world as a voiceover professional, right? 30% of that is my life outside the VO world because you know what? I don't live in my VO world 24/7. And just like in the real world, I had a job before being a voice actor, and I didn't always talk about voiceover. So I talked about hobbies, interests, things I learned, personal growth, books, movies, podcasts, my community, causes I care about, fun, relatable stories, inspirations. All of those things are relevant. If you ever run out of ideas, imagine what you would talk about to a client in person or a colleague or a vendor. It depends on who you are talking to. Just like we do in our voice acting, we have to find out who we are talking to in order for it to connect. The same goes on Instagram when you're creating posts. Who are you connecting with? Make it clear. Another thing too is that I don't like chasing people down. I don't like the constant hustle of chasing and fishing and trying to get this and get that. I'd rather just attract the right audience, attract the person that I want. What makes a 10 out of 10 voiceover? I think we can all agree on this, is that it teaches you something valuable, engages and holds attention, makes you laugh or smile, thoughtful and relatable, educational yet fun, full of personality and story. Guess what? All of that makes great content. You're already the professional. You're already the one that has these tools at your disposal. So use some of those storytelling techniques, some of the ways that you can tell a story to make great content. I was at a digital marketers conference a while back, and they said the best ads, great ads, either give you giggles or goosebumps. And I've taken that to heart, and that is so true. So I have this kind of loose framework that's all about magnetic content, where it's about attracting rather than fishing. And I lead with emotion, personality, and perspective. Emotion doesn't mean just love and sentimental and sadness or anything. It evokes laughter and curiosity and awe and connection. It makes your audience feel something, which they will remember. And personality, of course, it shows your quirks, your style, your tone, your humor. If you're still getting started with Instagram, you'll learn that by experimenting and you'll find out what those are. You may even know based on how you live in the world, the people you interact with daily. It distinguishes you and keeps your content playful and relatable. And then perspective. Share your opinions, your truths, your insights, your own personal point of view. Take a stand, express what matters. Offer your unique viewpoint. It sparks thought, engagement, and it makes you memorable. There's a lot of AI slop out there, guys. I mean, this is like you you don't want to put out content that is going to just be more of that. Do you know what I mean? By showing up as you, you're like well ahead of all the AI slop out there. Now, prompts. You might have heard of prompts being used when it talks about like ChatGPT and creating prompts, or here are 10 prompts that you can use today for your social media campaign. I believe in prompts that are specific to you because they don't all fit very particularly to you as a person and you as a voice actor. But if I was to share some, I would say, what about 70% in your VO world? What does that look like? Maybe share a behind the scenes clip of a session and you narrate your thought process behind it. This doesn't mean sharing like live auditions and stuff. Like that's like a big no-no because, that's like proprietary information to those clients and to those people you're auditioning for. So I would not do that. But share a story about how you make working with you like easy and enjoyable. What are things you do? Share about that. Repurpose one of your demos. Most of us only share our demos once or twice on our social media, and that's it. You can repurpose those. They're yours. You can lip sync to your own demo. You can create like ads, like take part of your commercial demo and react to your own commercial demo, right? It's fun. You could share a quick, useful VO tip, but in the vein of how that helps your client. Unless you're a voiceover coach, then yeah, share voiceover tips to other voice actors. But if you're a voiceover actor that doesn't sell voiceover coaching classes, then there's no point to share voiceover tips. It's kind of the way I look at that. 30% of your content outside the VO world, showcase your hobby or interests, narrate it with your voice. You like hiking? Narrate why you loved it. Share a quick insight from a book or podcast and why you want to share it with that person because you're choosing one person to talk to or one audience. Share a mini tutorial or life hack that's playful and relatable. I mean, all of these things you want to do this weekend. Share that. You'd share that in real life, wouldn't you? So those are just some ideas here. Now, the technical things. Here are the technical things. Editing platforms and apps that I use. Instagram. The native app Instagram has lots of editing features. Use them, play around with them, experiment. Again, it's this word experiment. Instagram edits. It's Instagram's like CapCut version. Use it. It's great. CapCut, I use that as well. Canva. Awesome. Great tools to use. Experiment, play around with them. If you need help with it one-on-one, I'm here for you. Lighting and great sounding audio are crucial. I'm telling you, having great lighting, just being able to see you or whatever's on screen, it sets a mood and it's inviting. Great sounding audio, at the bare minimum, make sure you're close enough to your phone so the uh, microphone can pick up your voice without it sounding terrible. Don't do it in an echoey space. Nobody wants to hear that. And guess what? You're a voice actor as well. So why not use your microphone? You've got it already here ready to go. You can do a voiceover. You can do a video right here. You can overlay the audio. The other thing too is that you could use something like this. It's just a lavalier mic that's wireless. Clips on, easy to use, great audio, super easy to use. A ring light. I'd say that's like the bare minimum. I know a lot of voice actors, use rope lights. You guys use rope lights. Totally fine. They look great. They add personality, but maybe you need to add like just a little bit more light so we can see you better. Play around with positioning. Try to find like the best lighting. Do some tests. Be close enough to, sorry, let me back up a little bit. Adding music to some of your talking head videos, it helps to match the mood and tone that you're bringing. It makes it a little bit more lively and it's inviting. I highly recommend it. Make sure the volume is low so we can still hear your beautiful voice. Play with different camera angles, different video ideas too. Look outside the VO industry for inspiration. I mean, real estate industry, automotive industry, I'm trying to think of some other ones that are just kind of random. Marketing agencies, different things out there that have nothing to do with voiceover, but see what they're doing with their content. What makes you stop the scroll? That's perfect. What makes you stop the scroll when you're scrolling? Note that down and figure out how you can make that happen in your content. Another very important thing is add text at the beginning of your videos to add context. We wanna know within, like, the first 5 seconds, like, what this video is about. Make it curiosity driven. Let us in on kind of what we're about to, experience. The same goes for your videos in your grid as well, you know? You wanna make sure you've got some stuff in here that says, "When I go to your grid, I wanna know, like, what these videos are," because the chances of me, like, clicking on it to figure it out, I'm not gonna do it. But I wanna see, is this video for me? So, make sure you're adding kind of these thumbnails on your grid, and you can do that right now after the videos are already on your page, or you can do it while you're uploading it. Let your visitors know what they're about and who they're for. Okay, I know 40 minutes. That was a lot. I'm sorry. I just knew it was going to be a lot of stuff that you can use. And now I think we're at a point where we got to bring Jenna Rostein up for a little audit. Okay, Jenna. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I'm on mute, and then my mouse decided that it was just going to be off.
Ah, well,
I turned
great.
it on. We're good.
Awesome. Well, good, good. Okay, well, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Well, thanks for being a part of this. This is gonna be fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
So, I'm just going to double check that I'm still sharing my screen here. Let me pull up my entire screen. Here we go, sharing the screen. Okay. Now my screen should be shared. Can you see my screen, Jenna?
I cannot.
You cannot. Okay. All
I
right.
cannot.
You cannot. Okay.
Oh,
There we go.
I see
Oh,
something now.
okay. Okay, we got something going. Okay,
It's
great.
very wide.
Very
I wonder
wide.
if you maybe you can, make the entire screen more Instagrammy shaped, and it would zoom in.
Yeah, let me see if I can
Make that window Instagrammy shaped.
let me just
But
zoom
yeah,
in.
that's my stuff. Some of it's good, some of it not so much.
Well, let's talk about it. So, let me kind of hear what you want some help with.
Well, um I'm still kind of a baby with Instagram.
Mhm.
I just really started trying to figure it out in March. Um, but I wanna figure out, first of all, ideas, and you've already helped with that. I have pages of notes, from the last 40 minutes, but I know that I have stories, but how do I know which ones are going to be good for sharing? And how do I kinda train my brain to, like, start thinking in what's a good story? I guess it's the first thing. Also, you mentioned that first few seconds and the thumbnail.
Mm.
How do I make the first few seconds actually pop? Because a lot of times when I'm telling a story, it'll have, like, the punchline or the reason that I'm telling the story at the end. Um, and I'm not used to putting that up front. Um, and then the third one, which is kind of not as much about content, but just general Instagrammy stuff. Does it matter who I follow? Does it not matter who I follow? Who should I follow? Because I know, like, on LinkedIn, who you're connected with is everything, but is that the case here?
Great questions. And we're gonna dive into the first one here. And
Okay.
the question was, what stories should you share? What stuff should you share, right? And how do you know it's appropriate for the audience, right? Well, I guess the first thing uh, is that's depending on who you're talking to, would you tell somebody that,
Mm,
right? I guess that's the first thing. That's your first filter is this story that I want to tell, who am I telling it to? And would I tell that to them in real life? That's your answer. And
mhm.
that's what you would share. So if it's something about your work life, uh, and you're like, well, I want to share kind of something about the fact I'm actually going to bring this one up because it was a great example. It was this one right here where you talk about, "This is why I save everything."
Mhm.
Pickups for 3 characters from 2 years ago, no problem, right? And this post was about a video game that you had done a couple years ago, right?
Mhm.
That a client came back and said, uh, "These, we need some retakes on these things," right? And
Mhm.
so you were like, "Well, thank God I save everything." Well, you could be making that content for a couple different audiences. One, you could make that as, as a voice actor speaking to another voice actor saying like, "Yeah, I mean, isn't it good that we back our things up? I am so glad because of what just happened." That
Mhm.
resonates with a voice actor for sure.
Mhm.
Now, if it was, uh, somebody like, a client or a prospective client, it might be like, "Well, this is why I save everything, and let me show you why that's important." They might be interested into thinking like, "Well, yeah, I get there that it's important to save it, but why is it important in this context?" And that might be speaking more to them, you know? And
X forms.
that could all be just like stuff you put on the screen, right? The text you put on screen,
Okay.
and based on who you're talking to. And you can expand in the caption, right?
Mhm.
You can expand like this is the base story that you shared right here. This is good. Like you probably don't need much more than this based on the story, but you could also include like why it's important as well. The fact of like,
Mm.
well, I saved it because I want to make sure I could get back into character. I wanted to make sure that, my sound quality that I'm matching that with some of these pickups and things like that. Like all important things,
Yeah,
right?
that I still have the
That
raw audio and not the
still
stuff
have
that you've already put through your filters. Yeah.
exactly. So all those things you can share as well. Um,
Okay.
now, okay, is that you singing?
I can't hear that, and I can't see what your screen is anymore.
Oh, you can't.
But
Okay.
pretty much anytime you hear any singing on my Instagram, yes, that's me.
Okay. Well, I think there's an opportunity right there. Like in that post, you don't even say who's singing, and I
Oh,
was like, I bet that's her. And
yeah.
you should share that you sing, that you s- that soundtrack right here, my vocals, that kind of thing. Like, totally cool to put that in there because it's cool. So when it comes to like what would you share, um, everything in your bio is like stuff that you should share. That's what I think.
Okay, okay.
So you have in here voiceover artist, soprano, and music teacher.
Mhm.
Gives me like a short little like, okay, so I know you're a voiceover artist. I know that you're a soprano, so you must sing, and that you're also a music teacher, right? Are you
Mhm.
currently a music teacher, or was that what you used to do?
I am still a substitute music teacher. I was a music teacher up until about a year ago, for preschool. And before that, I was a math teacher for high school.
Nice. Well, I think you have some crossover in the voiceover world. I mean, I think clients would find that interesting.
Okay.
Music, musicality, rhythm, all of that super important to voiceover. Uh,
Mhm.
and then singing, that's do you ever take on singing gigs along with some of the
Yeah.
voiceover stuff you do? Yeah, see, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that stuff right there you can easily talk about. Now, your other stories, I looked at this one here. This
We
one right here,
still
which
can't see them.
you still can't see them. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see if I can't share my screen again. Let's see, entire screen. Here we go. There we go. I think we're finally sharing
Do,
it again.
do, 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 do,
Now can you
do,
see it?
do. Yes, yes.
Okay, excellent. So we have this post right here.
For the voiceover artist.
Now, this was awesome. This was cool. Who are you talking to in this?
I was
I was
thinking other
thinking other
voices
voices
or
or
artists. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
getting an echo.
totally. Yep, that's exactly right. Um, but I think one thing that would have helped you here, because this is something about lung capacity and that sort of thing, throwing some title on it right in the dead center would instantly tell
Mm.
somebody who it's for, right? Or even if it's for a prospective voiceover buyer, you could put a caption in there that speaks directly to them as well as voice actors. Or it's like, you know, uh, a voice actor working on their day off or something like that, right? It's funny because you're not really working, but it's kind of cheeky, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
And in your video, you pretty much talk about that as well. So that's something that could absolutely help you in that. And that's something to talk about that works in that kind of 70%, but also you're maybe on vacation or something like that. You could talk about that too, you know? Um, it's kind of crossover. But think about
Mhm,
the
mhm.
things that you would talk about in real life with clients or colleagues, like beyond voiceover, right? Do you have other hobbies? Do you paint? Do you have a garden? Do you do anything else that is like do you read? Do you do anything like that? You can
Yes,
certainly
yes.
certainly share
Of
that
course,
stuff,
of course.
but you just do the bucket thing. 70% I talk about my voiceover world, 30% I talk about my world outside of voiceover. Kind of shows you as a complete person with personality and everything. So, um,
So, would you think that I would need to then I feel like whenever I've tried to bring in the outside of voiceover, I always want to try and figure out how does it cross over or things like that. Like if I'm talking about, "Oh, I'm gonna be playing D&D with my, friends tonight," and I'm like, "I love that it's a safe place to practice new voices that I haven't tried in voiceover before." Does it need to be a crossover, or can it just be its thing,
no, I don't think you
a
have to,
separate thing?
but the way that you just explained it to me, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah.
So,
Some of them
yeah,
make sense more than others. Others are
yeah,
a bit of a stretch, I'm sure.
but but if you feel like you're having to force something, don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, if it feels natural or if it feels like a natural conversation, yeah, totally do it. But if you're gonna, like, talk about, "Well, I'm gonna work on my car today, and here's what that's taught me about voiceover," or whatever, not a great crossover.
Mhm.
Um, so, yeah, I mean, if it feels natural, share it, you know? That's a fun insight, you know? I didn't know you liked D&D, that's cool, you
Yeah.
know? Totally share that. Does that give you some idea of kind of how to bring in
Yeah.
some of the rest of your life, essentially? And,
Yeah.
obviously, you can pick and choose, right? The things you wanna talk about.
Mhm. And it's great to then see like, "Oh, if I'd done this, it might have attracted more eyes or more people would have realized what was going on."
Yeah, and at the same time, really, like, at the base of it all, this just acts as a place when prospective buyers come to your profile, are you proud to show them what's on your profile? Would you be like, "I would tell you these stories."
Mhm.
That's like the baseline. So, and then the rest of it is like, as you start to learn more about Instagram and content, and then it's like maybe you get a little more strategic and you start being like, okay, I'm gonna like intentionally make this for this particular audience. That's who I'm talking to, kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I think that's great. Now to your second point was about
That those first few seconds.
the first few seconds.
Yeah.
You know, for the first few seconds, this is all experimentation. Really, a lot of it is. There's no silver bullet for a lot of this stuff. Sometimes you can take maybe the arc of your story, copy and paste that little portion to the front of your video, and when that plays, it's completely out of context, but it's, like, at the peak of energy, and it drives curiosity where it's like, "What?" And I kind of have an example of that, and that is, let's see if I can find it here. Pastries. Can
I
you see that
that
that video?
I cannot see it right now, but I know
Cannot
which post you're talking about.
okay, alright, so you had a video where it was talking about you saying the word pastries instead of tapestries, so a
Yes.
voiceover flub or, like, mistake in the,
Mhm.
narration, right? Totally normal, voice actors and narrators get it, we get it, and it's funny because you said pastries, and you could take the middle of that where you say where it's just like the recording from that recording, put that at the
Mhm.
beginning with some of the context of, like, the visuals you added to it, and it's kinda like, "What? That doesn't make any sense."
The
But
walls
a
were softened with pastries.
Yes, but as you get into
Yeah.
the story, they'll get to the arc of that story, and then
Yeah.
the story finishes out, and now you've come full circle with it. That being said, this one I also had some other ideas on that I think could help.
Okay.
So, your on-screen text you could have had on-screen text that spoke directly to a specific audience. Now, if you were gonna talk
Mhm.
to an audiobook narrator, voice actor, colleague, kind of like audience, maybe the on-screen text is a tasty little audiobook mistake. Don't we all know what an audiobook mistake is? Probably a
Mhm.
flub. So we would get that. Audiobook lovers, maybe your on-screen text is audiobook blooper, a tasty mix-up. I mean, audiobook lovers love audiobook bloopers. It's a fact, right?
Mhm.
They love it.
Mhm. Bloopers are
And
fun.
right. So then what if we wanna speak to authors? Maybe it's audiobook blooper, paying attention pays off. Because what you did is you caught the mistake, right?
Yeah.
That
Before I
shows
even sent it off, yeah.
exactly. That instantly shows that you're self-aware. So it's like these like subtle psychological things that are happening with some of this stuff. Now, all of those on-screen texts or hooks, um, you know, they're not a sure thing. Again, you're experimenting to see what works. But when you're putting them through the lens of the audience that you're speaking to, they land and connect better. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Um, let's see. Did I have anything else on that particular post? Having the hook, the text hook at the beginning, leaving that on
Mhm.
for at least 5 seconds, that's going to help as well. So if you didn't
Okay.
want to create an audible or visual hook, that's
A
a text hook
text,
that would work.
something
Uh,
they can see to know what it's about.
yeah, you can also walk into the frame if you wanted to, or pop out of the frame. Doesn't have to be like cartoony or anything, but it could be like, you know, you're not gonna believe this, that kind of thing. It just shows it the eye is attracted to movement. So,
That makes
uh,
sense.
something to think about there. And then, does that answer the question on that?
Yes, yes, I think it does. I think that between the 2 tips of bringing that one piece forward out of context to make people go, "What?" And then the text, to make it very specific, and yeah,
Okay,
those are
awesome,
both
awesome.
great tips.
And then the last question about who should you follow? I mean, like, does it matter? Does it not matter? I mean, I don't know. I can only speak from my experience here is that I end up following people. I end up following voiceover colleagues that create content that I want to engage in. Because people in the industry who have insightful and thoughtful thoughts about our industry, right? Um, thought leaders, if you will. Although everybody's cringing because they're like thought leaders. Well, ugh. But along with that, maybe some of your clients, like not all of our clients post on Instagram, but some of them do.
Mhm.
I follow my clients because I want to see what they're up to. It
Yeah.
allows me to have something to talk about if I am, reaching out via email or in the DMs or on a phone call. I can talk about that stuff. I can also comment and share their stuff, and there's so much there that you can work with. You can also follow brands that you want to work with, interact with their
Mm.
content, leave thoughtful comments beyond great work or neat. Say something thoughtful that's like meaningful to them and do that regularly, and they'll start to take notice. Um, Something that I didn't share earlier, but this is something that's super important, is that when you're making content, and let's say a potential client follows you, and you're like, "Ooh, this agency just followed me. That's super cool." Don't leave it at that. Look at their page. Find something that looks interesting in their bio, in the content they make, or something like that. Somewhere where you can do something meaningful. Then DM them and say, "Hey, thanks for the follow. Really love the way you guys uh, represent for whatever, like or do whatever. Love your guys' content.
Mhm.
It's super personal. It's something most people don't do, and I do that, and it leads to quotes and bookings. So that is something to keep in mind, is that we don't just create content to then hopefully get discovered or to let the business come to us, there's still this like legwork that happens because this being a place to create content for Instagram, that's not what we're doing. We're doing this to build relationships through
Mm.
trust, through entertainment and education and all of that. And I think that is exactly how you can make it work for you without having to be a full-time content creator.
Yeah. So it's not just passive, you put it out there and then it stays.
I mean,
It's
gosh, I would
yeah.
love to sell that course, but it doesn't exist in my opinion. And I've taken a
Yeah.
lot of courses and, beyond that, I think you're at a good point. You're learning a lot of stuff. You have a great spot to experiment. You're still learning your voice on Instagram, meaning that you're
Mhm.
trying to find your own style. And I
Yeah.
think that's another important takeaway. The more that you experiment, the faster and closer you are to discovering your own style.
Makes
Now,
sense.
I will offer just a couple more points that in your bio, you want to make sure that your bio backs up what's in your grid, the content that you make.
Mm.
So maybe you have an anchor career. Maybe your anchor career is voiceover artist. And then below that, you add some more context to you being a singer, a soprano singer, and being a music teacher. Adding some sort of like something personality driven,
Mhm.
that where we can get a sense of your personality. And then also add your website to Instagram. I mean,
Mhm.
huge. You're gonna definitely want to add that because people might get curious and be like, "I wanna learn more about Jenna." And they'll go to your website, listen to your demos, learn a little bit more about how you work.
And I just
So
finished updating it. Yay.
yeah, so great. And that could be part of your content too.
Yeah.
Create content about your website.
Alright.
Um, you know, let's see, what was the other thing? Putting in the types of, voiceover work you do. I
Mm.
know that you do video games and audiobooks based on the
Mhm.
content you posted on Instagram, but you do more than that, right?
Yes, yes. I do a lot
So
of I corporate and I do commercials and
yeah,
yeah.
put it on there. I think it makes sense. That's a good anchor to have on there. So then that's how you show up first and foremost as a voice actor working in those genres, basically. And then
Mhm.
and then add in some of the personality driven stuff that makes you unique, right? Um,
Mhm.
let's see, what was another thing that I had here for you? In your captions, uh, like you might have seen in my first stuff that I was talking about where my captions were hollow. They were
Mhm.
just announcements basically,
Yeah.
um, eh, giving lessons nobody asked for. Tell a story, kind of pick one audience or one person to talk to in your caption. Write it like a story. Leave it a little messy, totally fine. I mean, it just brings us closer to you.
Mm.
And it adds the right context to the video, right? Your content buckets, just at first glance, of course, uh, in and around the VO world, combining your VO and singing, cool. Your portfolio pieces, you could share those, but make sure there's some sort of context on the video so we know it's a portfolio piece.
Mhm.
Um, what's your bread and butter VO? I want to know. What VO are you working towards? I want to know that too. Like
Mm.
choose a focus and supplement with one or the other, just I want to learn a little bit more about how you work and like what it's like to work with you. You're 30% outside VO, your singing has that crossover like I mentioned. Are you still teaching music? That's kind of cool. Maybe there's like some crossover in voiceover, but maybe there's just like a fun music thing you can share. Uh, travel. It looks like you like to travel. Tell those
Mhm.
stories. And, you got a connection to your family, right? So that, these are
Mhm.
all things that you could talk about. But I'm sure after this, you'll come up with your own things that you'll be like, well, this is the rest of the stuff I do outside of VO that I would share with a client or a colleague.
Mhm.
Last couple things is you could turn your spots of your commercial demo into content. That Pacific Life insurance spot,
Mhm.
I mean, you could let that play in the background and you can react to it because that is how it comes across. You could react to it as because your voiceover is kind of speaking to the person that's in the spot. So you could react
So
to it.
talk to myself.
Have fun with it. Like who? Me? That kind of thing. Uh, Posting about you saving everything, right? Like, your backup files and all that. You could do stuff like that. You could talk about your headphones, you could talk about your planner, you could do all these different things that, um, just finding different unique ways to tell them, and
Mhm,
experiment with them, try different things. Um,
mhm,
I think that's pretty much it as far as the stuff that I saw instantly when we were chatting here. So,
mhm.
um, do you have any questions?
I I'm sure that I have tons, but in my head, I am so full of stuff that you've said over the last hour and 5 minutes that I
Hour and 5
can't
minutes.
think of any right now. Plus,
Okay.
I think it's probably time for some folks to wrap up.
Well, I really appreciate you telling me about the time. I totally lost track. My fault, everyone. I'm sorry. But let's. I got. I don't think I have time to take questions. I don't think. I'm checking with the moderators, but I don't think so. Oh, please address questions. Okay, I'm going to do that right now.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
There's so many
Uh,
good ones in there.
well, Jenna, thank you so much. This was awesome. Um, again, reach out with your questions. We can fine
Absolutely.
tune anything.
Mhm.
This was great, and thank everyone here for watching what we were doing. So,
Thanks for coming, everybody. Bye.
thanks, Jenna. Okay, let me look at these questions here real quick. Thanks everyone for being so patient. I know I kind of went over. Oopsies. Let's see. I'm looking at some of the comments. Da, 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 da. Okay. Let's see. Hi, Katie. Yes. Thank you so much. Uh, let's see. How do you put it all together? Let's see. Kristen says, "How do you put it all together? Where is my time? It disappears." I'm going to be honest with you. It does take time initially to learn some of this stuff. Just do a little bit every day. Sometimes when I create content, I'll have an idea on Monday. I'll write it down in my notes app. Tuesday, I'll write the script. Wednesday, I'll think about some visuals that I might want to use. Thursday, I might be like, okay, maybe I'll record just some B-roll of me sitting here on my computer. And then the last day, maybe I'll put it all together. I mean, in total, yeah, I'm probably spending a little bit of time on it, but I'm not spending hours on it at a time. So batch it out, like chunk it out a little bit, do a little bit at a time. Also, uh, the more that you experiment, the more that you're going to get confident with some of your techniques and the things that you're doing with some of your editing. Uh, let's see. From Micah, why Instagram instead of other platforms like LinkedIn? You know, there are some crossover to some of the things that I've said today about Instagram that you can use for LinkedIn. I'm actually gonna do something for LinkedIn that's like this because I think it'll piggyback well because it'll repeat some concepts, but it'll add some other things in there too. And I do think some of this stuff can work on LinkedIn. I use some of this on LinkedIn as well. So very much so. How are you doing video edits with the IG app or CapCut? DKS voiceover. Yeah, I use CapCut a lot. I've used InShot. I use the IG app a lot. I try not to get super complicated. I use Adobe Premiere sometimes, but that's like high level stuff that I'm not showing here today. Um, let's see. What is the optimal strategy in terms of formatting posts, real stories, carousels? This question is from a person who hates making videos of themselves. Yes, Micah, I totally get it. I hated making videos of myself as well. Um, in the terms of formatting posts, I don't use stories very often, just because I caught this little like rhythm with Instagram, and I post 3 days a week. It feels comfortable to me. For a year, I did 365 posts. That was too much for me. Three feels like just about the right rhythm. Change it up. Like maybe like one day's a reel, the next day's a carousel, the next day's a static post. It all works. I'm focusing on video because I know that's one of the biggest struggles that people deal with. But showing up on video, I mean, a lot of this is not so different than if we were required to come into a recording studio to work with an audio engineer and a client. We're still showing up. So I think you can find creative ways to show up on social media as well, Instagram specifically. So something to keep in mind there. Let's see, DKS voiceover. How much time do you spend doing video editing for a reel, like adding voiceover, sharp edits? Again, it just really depends. Some of them are super easy. Like one of them I was talking about where I was like panning over to my bookshelf right over here. I mean, that was like 15 minutes. But it was super effective. Um, Others can take an hour to create a reel. Others, it just really depends. I try not to spend a lot of time. I also do something that I didn't talk about here. I'll talk about it in the future, but it's repurposing content, so you don't have to keep remaking content. So that saves a lot of time as well. And having done 2,000 pieces of content, I've got a lot. Um, Lots of chatter about lighting and the importance of good lighting. Yes, it is huge. It's just so important, and it's fairly inexpensive to do that stuff. When you're scrolling, I know that you're stopping on videos with good lighting and great sound. If somebody's in their bathroom, you're not scrolling. Well, okay, maybe that could be like a fun hook or something. But if it's super echoey, it's annoying as shit, and you're not going to stick around for it, and no one else is. So try to focus on good audio. You already have it at your disposal. You have your microphone. You get close enough to your camera mic. If it sounds good, it is good. Mics like this, travel mics, lavalier mics, super easy to deal with. Awesome. Maybe earbuds. Maybe earbuds that could totally work. Let's see. Uh, Instagram. Let's see. Instagram. Your new favorite word, Instagrammy. It's kind of Instagrammy. I get that. Let's see. It's time. Okay. Okay. I think I've got all the questions answered as far as I can tell. I got one last thing for you guys. So start experimenting today. It really is about being present over being perfect. Just create it, put it out there, try it. Instagram is fleeting in a lot of ways. We don't retain a lot of it in our heads, but if it's good, it will be remembered. Um, I do one-on-one consulting. I don't believe in playbooks or courses because I think it's individualized and personalized. I offer 1 hour coaching for $150, but for anybody who joined us live, I will give you $25 off. So please reach out. I have 6 spots available. I'm a working voice actor. I do it full time. I don't have a lot of time, so I have 6 spots available. DM me or email me at brandon@brandonmillervo.com, and I will send you my calendar, and we'll work together on what you want to work on for Instagram so you can stay top of mind. I have one last thing that I mentioned. This free thing that I'm doing, free personalized prompts. There are a lot of generic prompts out there where it's like, here are 10 or 20 ideas that you can make videos on Instagram. I don't really believe in that because I feel like they're very personalized to who you are and the type of voice actor you are and all those little details. So DM me the word prompt, PROMPT, and I'll hop onto your Instagram. I'll take a quick look at it and send you 1, maybe 3 ideas for posts you can actually use. Now, the results I'll get them to you a week after you have DM'd me. Think of it kind of as a personal content spark, something to get you creating without overthinking it because I've already given you an idea that takes the pressure off. Um, 1 to 3 only because I'm only gonna take a short while. You may only need one idea, but maybe you need 3. Um, so that's what I will do for you. Hurry and do this because the last day to submit to do this is November 22nd, 2025, 30 days from now. I'm only gonna have this running for 30 days, so feel free to do that, and I look forward to helping you with that. And that brings me to my little outro here. A huge thank you to Jenna Rostein for sharing her time and allowing us to take a deep dive into her content on Instagram. And on behalf of Building Doors, we truly appreciate everything that you guys are doing here by showing up and participating. Do you want to support the campaign? Do so. Buy a coffee like Alicia O just did. Go to buymeacoffee.com/buildingdoorsvo to donate. And if you want to see the finalists for our 2026 door builders, stay tuned for that announcement. Voting begins November 5th, which is coming up. Watch the Building Doors Instagram and LinkedIn to stay in the know. I've already started making those reels, and they are turning out amazing. And remember, we'd love to keep the conversation going, so call 216-307-1917 anytime to leave us a short voicemail with your thoughts on today's discussion and the Building Doors campaign. And don't miss our next live event, Instagram Live with Amy Geronimi and Stefan Kornicard. Topic is LGBTQ+, November 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern on LinkedIn. And I personally want to thank the Building Doors campaign, Jenna Rostein, and all of you for the opportunity to be with you today. That's all I got. Thank you for allowing me to keep you 15 minutes after. Thank you.